Alright, so now we're going to learn how to use workshops, and these series of videos are going to be broken into each of the phases that you see here. The longest of which is the setup phase, which is typically the case with most things. And so to get to this page, you first need to create a workshop, and then you need to go and click on it in your course page, and it'll take you to here. And you'll notice that the setup phase is the first phase that is highlighted or selected. And as we go through, like I said, we'll create a video for each of these phases that you'll have available to look at. So the first thing is you'll see the checklist items here. And the first one is set the workshop introduction. Note that the introduction is down here. And this was set up when you actually created the workshop. If you click on it, it will take you to the workshop settings where it says introduction, and you can provide additional steps here to the students. And same thing with provide instructions for submission. If you click on that, then it's going to take you back to this page, and you can go down to instructions for submission and give them specific guidance that you want to give them there. Now the next checkbox is edit assessment form. And depending on which type of assessment you use, they will vary greatly in how you set them up. So let's first talk about, I'm going to go back here and set this up. And we're going to choose grading strategy accumulative grading. And let's go ahead and click on save and display. And I'm going to go click on edit assessment form. Now, accumulative grading basically provides aspects of the assignments that students will look for and then grade on a scale. So in this case, you'll see each of the aspects 1 through 3, and then you have a description of what that aspect is, so you can be very precise as to what you want the student to actually look for, and you'll provide that in this box. And then it'll say best possible grade scale to use, and all that means is that for each aspect you can have the students grade them on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 to 100, however you want to set that up. And then you also have the ability to weight each of the aspects based on how important it is in the overall assignment. So for example, if I wanted to say student has all characteristics of MLA formatting, this combines a lot of different things, and I could list them in a bulleted list if I wanted to, or so on. And let's say I want to use a scale of 1 to 10, but I could weight this to be something as much as 16 here, specifying that it has a lot of point value associated with it. And I can continue adding on other aspects as well. Now keep in mind, depending on how you've weighted the other ones will determine how much value these have. So for example, if this is a weight of 2 but everything else is 1, then it's worth double everything else. So that's important to keep in mind. So if I go ahead and add other aspects here, and I can weight them and do my scales appropriately, I would recommend using the same scale for each of the aspects if you can, unless one has a lot of information, which could result in them having to lose more points. If you also want to add more aspects, you can click on the blanks for 2 more aspects here. And once you're done, you'll click on either save and continue editing, which allows you to continue working on aspects, but just saves your current work. You can click on save and preview, so you can see what the students would see in the assessment form, or you can click on save and close or cancel. So what we're going to do is I've gone ahead and add this one. I'm going to say this is the second aspect, and I'm going to leave its weight the same, and I'm going to leave the third one blank, so you'll see that even though I don't add an aspect there, it doesn't include it, so I don't have to be concerned with that. So this is what the students will see when they're going and assessing their peers' content. They'll see each of the aspects, a grade drop-down box with a scale that I chose, and then they can put comments in here as well. And once I'm done previewing it, I can click on back to editing form, and it'll take me back to here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click on cancel here because I want to show you some of the other different assessment forms that are available. So that was accumulative grading. Now we're going to do comments only. And so I'm going to go down here, grading strategy, comments, save and display. I'm going to click on edit assessment form again. And you'll notice this looks almost identical to the accumulative grading. The only difference is that it doesn't have this scale and weight boxes, because students will not actually provide a grade, they'll just provide comments. So I could say this is aspect 1, and this is aspect 2, and let's go preview it real quick. And you'll see that it has the aspect, what they're looking for here and here, and then they can comment in here about what they think about the particular aspect and how the student achieved or didn't achieve that aspect. Note that they are required to fill these out. And it says here in red that they are required to fill out those comment fields. They have to put something in there in order to complete the assessment. So click back to editing form, and I'm back here, and I'm just going to go down once again and click on cancel. Now we're going to go back, and we've done accumulative and comments only to this point. Now we're going to do the number of errors assessment style. And basically this is like a yes or no assessment style. So you'll give them some different information and have the students basically answer yes, they did do this, or no, they didn't. Notice now it's changed to assertions. And so you have 3 assertions, and you can add more assertions down here at the bottom. And each assertion box has a description, just like in the previous section. So I could type in, this paper is formatted correctly. And word for the error is no, word for success is yes. You can leave that as yes or no, and you could change it to correct or incorrect, however you want to word it. Basically, the student's going to choose a radio button with one of these 2 options, either yes or no, and it's going to count for or against the student based on whether they choose yes or no. The weighting, once again, works the same way as the previous one, so I can choose the weight here. So let's say that I want this to be worth 3 times the other questions. In this case, I can go down here and I can say there are no grammar errors. And I'll leave the words the same. Actually, here, let's do this. I'm going to change it to incorrect and correct so you can see the difference. And I'm going to go down here and click on Save and Preview. And you'll see this paper is formatted correctly. Your assessment, notice that that's required. No or yes. And then I can add comments here. Now this is once again what the student will see. Assertion 2, there are no grammar errors. Once again, incorrect or correct. I'm basically judging whether this statement is true or false. And then based on that, I'm going to choose one of these, and then I'm going to fill in any comments. Note that the comment fields are no longer required now because you have a different form of assessment. So I'm going to go back to editing form. And we're going to go ahead and look at the grade mapping table. So what this means is it says weighted number of errors is less than or equals 0 is 100% grade for submission. So if a student has 1 error, then you can choose what percentage they get of the overall grade out of 100%. So they had 0 errors, and obviously they get 100. 1 by default it says 80, 2 is 64, 3 is 40, and so on. And if you add more assertions and you add more information, then they will automatically recalculate these, or you can specifically assign them as well. So maybe the first one they miss doesn't count as much as subsequent errors in their submission. So you can weight that however you want to, but this just allows you once again to tie the number of errors to the grade that the student should get based on the number of errors they have. So I'm going to click on cancel here, and we're going to go back now, and we're going to look at the last form of submission, which is the rubric form. So I'm going to go back in here and go to grading strategy and go to rubric. The rubric is just like you would expect any rubric that you probably used before. You're going to set up different criteria and then grading scales of that criteria. So let's edit the assessment form again. And you'll notice that, that now this box is criterion. I have 3 criterion boxes. I can add more criterion down at the bottom. Each box is the same. You have a description of the criterion. And so I could say something like, this paper contains proper MLA formatting. Okay, and now I have my level grade definition. So what this means is that the student's going to choose a different scale, and you can set this up all the way from 0 to 100 depending on how you want to set it up. So I could say 100, 80, and so on if I wanted to, or I can just go 0, 1, 2, 3, depending on how you want that set up. But basically, all that does is allows the student to grade how accurate their peer actually completed this criterion. So in this case, paper contains proper MLA formatting. I could say here no formatting at all. And then here I could say contains 1 to 2 formatting characteristics. And note, once again, I could put like a bulleted list of the things here to help them quantify that as well. Contains 3 to 4 formatting characteristics. And contains all or most formatting characteristics. So this way the student can see kind of a graduated scale of how they should grade their peers. So if it's something that has multiple parts or multiple points, you might want to use the rubric. So let's go down and go ahead and click on save and preview, and so we can see exactly what this looks like. So let's see the criterion, the what it actually is, the text of it, and then they have the different options. So they can go and say, okay, well, I saw, for example, the paper had 1-inch margins, Times New Roman 12-point font, and a proper heading. So that's all I saw. So it contained 3 to 4 formatting characteristics. So that's the one I would choose. And so it makes it a little bit easier for the student to determine exactly how they should grade their peers there. And note, once again, you can fill out all these and you can add more. And there's 2 rubric layouts. That was the list layout. There's also a grid layout. So I'm going to show you what the grid layout looks like as well. The grid has the criteria here, and it has each of the different levels here on the right. So either one works. It's just kind of a personal choice. I like the grid personally better, just because I like to have the questions on the left and each of the levels on the right. But that's kind of a standard rubric format. But you can choose either way. Either way is effective. So I'm going to click on back to editing form. And I'm going to go down here. I'm going to click on save and close because we're going to choose the rubric style for this one. And you'll notice that now the edit assessment form box is checked because I have created an assessment. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare example submissions for for the students to go through. So one of the things that you had setting available for you when you first created the workshop was the ability to provide a sample submission that the students could grade and that you could grade, and they could see how closely they graded to what you graded the submission. So the first thing we have to do is actually add an example submission here. And we're going to call this sample. And now I could say, I could have a file here, or I could just have a text response depending on how the submission is set up. I'm going to say this is my submission. And once again, I could go and add a file here. Add, upload, browse, and let's go find a file. And let's say this is my file. Open, upload, and you'll now notice now that this is a file that the students will be able to access as well. I click on Save Changes, and now it's going to say that I actually have to assess my own submission. So what I would do at this point is I have my example. I am now going to go submit. So in all reality, the example should have some errors in it. So you can grade it and the students can see how you grade it and a comparison of their grading versus your grading. So I'm going to go down here and click Assess Example Submission. And I've got instructions here. And here's my assessment form that I created earlier, the rubric. And I'm going to say it contains all or most formatting characteristics. And I'm going to click on Save and Continue Editing. and that only just saves what I've got, and then you'll notice the grade's 100 out of 100 now. I can click on save and close, and it'll move me on. So now the students have a sample that I have provided for them and I have graded for them, so that when they go in and look at the example, they'll grade it and they'll see what grade they gave it versus what grade I gave it, and how they were different and why they were different. So it's a really good tool to make sure that they understand exactly how to submit or assess their peers before they move on to the other phases. So that's the end of the setup phase of the workshop.